And what we did last week, we did an activity with a group of young men. Write a letter to yourself. And I want you to write what you say to yourself. Like, what are the words you say to yourself inside? And one boy who has been having a meltdown lately, like he wants to fight with me. He wants to do these little Eye of the Tiger stare downs with me. And I'm like, dude, I'm not your enemy. And when I read his letter, oh, it was so much like, you're so stupid, you dumbass. What he says to himself is words I've heard him say out loud to others. If you're saying those words to yourself on a regular basis, it means nothing to say them to somebody else. And I realized that he is what I am to myself, because I don't talk to anybody in my life the way I talk to myself. My name is Ashanti, and welcome to the Taking Off the Mask podcast, where men get real. Men of all ages and backgrounds come to this space to talk about these masks we wear. The front of the mask are the things that we gladly let the world see, and the back of the mask are the things that we don't talk so much about. Today, sharing his mask is Charles Smith. Now, Charles and I go way back. Charles and I go like so far back to before I became a freshman in high school. That summer before freshman year, when you come to the campus and sometimes you have some kind of pre-college program. Charles was at that weekend where a couple of our friends really got to know each other. We really built a strong bond in those, I think it was like only 3 or 4 days. You took your placement tests, you took your math and science, and you figure out where your classes you're going to take. You register for your classes. It was a really beautiful program. And that's where we first met. And our friend group, when we came back in the fall, we were all in different dorms, and the red bricks and the concretes back there, like all whatever the names of dorms were at Cal Poly. And we had already built a connection. It was a really beautiful thing. So Charles is a recruiting manager for a nonprofit organization, and he's currently working on his PhD in organizational psychology, a topic that is really close to my heart. So Charles and I have over the years stayed in touch. Not as frequently as would have been, maybe I would have hoped, but ultimately everything happens for the right reasons. We grow in the ways we need to grow so that we can live life the way we need to live life. Charles is a father. He's a husband of 21 years. He's a recruiter for a nonprofit organization, and he's a good friend. And so to talk to somebody from way back in the day when I was definitely not making no podcasts and talking about emotions, I definitely was emotionally devoid of conversation, but I was always available for my friends. And I was thankful to have Charles not only as a friend, but also we became college roommates, and all the fun, lively, crazy stories that go with growing up and becoming a college student in whatever your journey was of college. We were engineering majors, so not only were we super busy, but also try to make time for the super downtime as well. I'm so glad you get to be a part of this conversation. We talk about a lot of topics. I think you had made 1 or 2 college time stories, but more than anything, today coming back we've known each other since 1992. So I can't even do the math right now. 32 years. It's good to know people that long in your life who've seen you for more than half of your life, and to stay connected. And so today in this conversation, a little bit of nostalgia, but definitely focused on our masks. And what are we today compared to what that time was way back when we probably didn't have a whole lot of, make a lot of room for conversations about the feelings and emotions, him coming from LA, me coming from Oakland, meeting in the Central Coast, Cal Poly, San Luis Obispo. But what an amazing journey it's been, a friendship, a brotherhood. And I hope you really enjoyed today's conversation. Just to give you a couple of heads up about what's coming up in Ever Forward, May is Mental Health Awareness Month. And what Ever Forward is doing, we have 2 major events that we want you to know about and be prepared for. May 16th is Mental Health Action Day, sponsored by MTV, and the Million Mask Movement is going to be a part of that. So please tell somebody about it, share it with somebody. The information will be in the show notes. You can see it on our social media pages. Get involved. If nothing else, on that day, if you've been waiting for when you were going to make a mask on that day, May 16th, 2024. And then May 25th is our 20th anniversary celebration. It's also our 5K challenge. So we would like to invite you to join us at our 5K. Registration is $50. You'll get a shirt, you'll get a medal. You don't have to come here to the Bay Area. You can actually participate anywhere in the world using our donation website and Strava. You can map your miles, your kilometers, 5 of them, anywhere in the world. So we already have one of our participants in Mexico walking and running with his family on the weekends, already starting his 5K journey. So you can participate anywhere in the world. We look forward to you being a part. If you don't feel like you want to walk or run or hike or bike, you can just donate. You can just support the work that the Ever Forwarded Club is doing to really improve the wellness of young people. And if that's too much for you, how about take 3 or 4 minutes, make a mask, become a part of the movement that is helping people realize they're not alone. So today, enjoy this conversation with Charles Smith, a good friend of mine and a man in the community who's doing his best to show up in the world as strong as he can for his family, for his community, and a person who I'm really thankful to know. And you can be a part of this journey with us as well. So take care. Share this episode with somebody who you think could benefit from it. We'll see you very soon. Take care now. Peace. Charles Smith, welcome to the Taking Out the Mask podcast. It's so good to see you, brother.
So good to see you. It's been a long time, a long journey, huh?
I know. Right before we started recording, the last time we met, we had dinner in Oakland with some folks at the Scott's restaurant we were at, I think.
Probably. All I know, it was in Jack London Square in Oakland.
That's right, Jack London Square, exactly where we were. And that was like 2022. It went so fast. I thought it felt like it was not that long ago, but it was 2022. So good to see you again.
Yeah, good to see you also.
Well, we go way back. I'm going to let you introduce yourself, and I'm sure it's going to come up in the show. We go way back, way back. So I'll let you introduce yourself, and then we'll jump into these masks.
All right, great. Well, I mean, it's real simple. My name is Charles Smith. I'm a lifelong learner. I am just happy to be in the place I'm in right now. We were just blessed. We moved from Los Angeles, California, over to Dallas, Texas, and it's been an amazing journey. Just people out here just been really welcoming and just friendly, and so it's just interesting how when you pick up and move somewhere else, and of course I spent time in other places in other states, but it's just different how it's interesting how your life can be different just by being in a different place. So that's a short introduction, but you can ask me questions if you want to know more.
Well, you're gonna get to share whatever you feel like comfortable sharing. What I told folks before, what I just said, like we go way back. So Charles and I know each other from the before Week of Welcome at Cal Poly San Luis Obispo in 1992. We were both freshmen, and we met that summer before. I forgot the name of that summer program where they brought students in to register and take your tests to see what classes you're going to be in. And we were there that summer with Carlos and Rasan and Aman Gonzalez, and we just met. We made a really cool connection before school started. So when school started, you came to campus, you already knew some folks. So Charles is one of the brothers I met.
And the funny thing was that I wasn't even in that program. I just came early to my room early. And so I caught you guys on the tail end of that program and was just hanging.
Okay. That's how you do it. It.
That's how I've always done it.
Just find some folks in the right spot and you just say, hey, let's go.
Exactly.
Well, I know we were on the courts half of that week. And that week we were out playing basketball just before they finished the new gym. So it was in the old spot, and just a lot of energy that week. I'll never forget it. So
yeah, and that campus looks totally different. Before we left California, man, we went up there. My daughter had a soccer game in I think Arroyo Grande. That campus is so different now.
It is.
It's amazing.
It has transformed. It's transformed. It's grown. I think it was almost close to twice the size in terms of people. Now they have new dorms and.
Oh wow!
And they're still building. So they keep getting more big donors coming in there with some money to buy. They already have a bunch of land. They just never built on it. And slow has changed too. Downtown changed, but every Thursday still farmers market, so that's a
Nice.
wild ride, right? And I am in this conversation as we jump into these masks. I think about how many friends I have from high school, which is not that many. And
Hmm.
so freshman year of college is kind of where I have a lot more friends connected. I have I have people I knew from high school, but like people who were like friends, can't name that many on one hand, maybe that I stay in touch with, maybe three or four. So, from that freshman year, the meeting folks and staying connected, that's like 20, that's like, I don't want to do the math, maybe. I don't think I want to do the math.
It's a
Actually,
lot.
that's 30 years.
It's 30 years, man.
Oh my God.
That's 30 years. Yeah.
That is 30. It's more than 30. It's more than 30. Okay. Yeah. See, that's why I didn't do the math before. I didn't do the math. But yes, I've known you over 30 years, brother. So good to be in this conversation with you. And we're going to make the mask. We're going to do the mask.
Yeah.
And so you as a guest, you get to go first. You get to decide
Okay.
who goes first, not go first. You get to decide either you want to go first or you want me to go first, but it's your choice as the guest.
Well, let me dive in there. I'll dive in.
Okay, so you do the front, and then you pass it to me. I'll do the front, and then you do back, and then I'll do the back.
Okay. So my front is humor, wit, and charm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is there anything
So,
about any of those you want to say? Anything about any of those?
yeah. I mean, I lead with the fun stuff, right? It's like I treat everybody like I've known them forever, like their family. Like, I believe that we should be friendly towards one another, right? And it's in scriptures, right? Just show yourself friendly, right? So, and then I just have I have this persona, right, where the charm, right, where it's like I'm always trying to create a moment or type of thing, and that's just how I lead with, right? It's just like making people feel welcomed and making them feel special, right? So, and that mask just hides the other stuff that's going on, right? It just keep people away from the other side, right? It's just like I want you to experience this. This is the part I like. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you. Something about that I'm going to come back to in a minute because I think, but I'm going to do the front here. So this is the mask that I drew. This M shape that I'm working on around million masks, and I wrote excitement, dedicated, and determined.
Mm.
And I think like you, like I feel like keep I want to be positive. I want to be positive, and I try and keep things. And I'm excited. I love life. I love laughing. I think we got along really well because of a lot of that. Like just keeping things in a light mode. And I think,
Hmm.
and then I'll say, like, I'll go to dedicated and determined, and like hardworking, dedicated to a mission, dedicated. I mean, Cal Poly wasn't easy for me. I think about that's looking way back, and life has not
Yeah.
been all roses, but it's been a journey of like, okay, staying dedicated. Okay, this. We're gonna get through this, right? It's gonna take me 6 years to get through this place at Cal Poly, but I'm gonna get through it. I'm not gonna be upset about it. This is what it takes. We do what it takes. And the determination to not quit, because it's some days you're like, this I just want to be back home. Or I would think I like Cal Poly sometimes more than home, because Oakland was a mess when I left.
Hmm.
It wasn't
Yeah.
pretty. It wasn't, people like to claim it, but it wasn't the beautiful. It wasn't. I mean, it has its beauty parts, but it wasn't like, I love Oakland because it's so beautiful and it's so relaxing. No,
Right.
it's just more ego driven that I'm from Oakland, right? It's not like like, oh, okay, okay, how'd you get here? That's what Lacasio said. How do you speak so well? That's what he said to me. Like,
Wow.
right? Like, you're from
Yeah.
Oakland? Like, oh, like even some of these.
Oh man, we don't want to get into the professors, man. But I will say this: the dedicated definitely fits you. You've always been dedicated. Probably my best memory of you aside from there's some heart stuff, right? There's some stuff like there's some moments that saw of you as the value of a person that you were, like the heart of who you were. But this is my favorite moment of remembering of you, and I don't even know if you remember this, but we were in those concrete dorms that have been condemned, and it was some type of event, and they had karaoke, man, and you got up there and you sang this song, and I tell you, you commanded the crowd. I mean, everybody, you had the energy going, you was rocking it, and everybody was feeling it. And everybody knows Ashanti's not a singer, right, by any stretch of the imagination, but I tell you, you were the best performer up there. No one could touch you. You commanded the crowd, and in that moment I was like, man, this dude, he's amazing.
Oh
And
man. Oh
and
man.
then we had our first little tiff over, we were looking at fraternities, and I blink, and next thing I know, this dude done played Sigma, and I'm like, what happened, dude? So, and I ended up going Alpha, and so, but that didn't stop us from being friends. We still ended up being roommates, and all that fun stuff. And
That's right. Oh man. Third floor. Oh man.
yeah.
That was well the oh, see- okay. So I'll tell this part. So Charles was awesome. Like we had a situation where Ashanti began to be a big fan of reptiles. So I had two snakes, and I was thinking, I'm a poor college student, but I'm also smart and I'm resourceful. So I learned that rodents will multiply quickly. So it, so now we had our own room. So I had my room, and I had a nice big window so I could keep it nice and fresh in there or whatever. And this one season, the rodents' spring fever decided it was a madness. It was madness. We just say it was madness. And and I came home, and everything stayed in my room. So I came in, kept the door closed. Like rodents are. And I was feeding them. I was getting the food from the grocery store that they threw out. And this one day, I had this big, thick cardboard box, and I said, "Oh, this is what I'm going to use to put these rodents in." And I came home from college class one day, and I'm like, "Is that a hole?" And I looked down, and these rodents, for what I feed them very well. Why would they eat out of the box? I didn't think they would do that. they and I'm like counting them up. A high number, more than 25, more than 30, more than 40, like a lot of rodents in there. I'm trying to give them away. I'm trying to sell, no one wants to buy them. I can't even give them away. Like, and literally I spent the rest of that night. So Charles came home, he usually whistles. He usually whistles when he's coming up the stairs. Like it's like three flights of stairs. So I hear him come. I was like, okay, I gotta tell him that a few of them then got out. And so that night I spent they all came back. It was none of them stayed away. They weren't like wild rats, but nonetheless, I said, Charles, I got to tell you something. They're none of them in your room, but there's some loose rodents here. He's like, what? I was like, yeah, I'm sorry. I didn't think they're gonna. The box is like 2 inches thick. I didn't think they're gonna eat through this box. They straight ate through the box. And so anyway, that was many stories of when you have roommates, right? So many stories of journeys of moments of like I felt so embarrassed. I felt, and I after that I got rid of most of them, not all of them, but most of them. So
you and those snakes, boy.
Oh my goodness, that's part of that college life, right? When you're getting excited about different things, right? You're like, oh, I think I'm gonna be a snake tamer, and yeah. Welcome
no,
to.
But you thought you was a comedian when it came to other things, though. Sometimes you just thought you was real cute and funny. Some of the stuff that you. Oh yeah, Charles is right over there. Like, no.
Well,
he's going there.
Well, see, we just didn't have. We were both engineers. We didn't have good signals for stuff, so I wasn't necessarily knowing. I'm just telling the truth. Like this is the truth. That's where is that. Our signals were off. You were electrical signals. I was sending civil engineering signals. Civil engineering signals are forces and mass. That's the direction. You're doing some kind of like Fourier analysis stuff, and I'm like, how am I supposed to get that? How am I supposed to get that hint? I don't even take Fourier analysis. What are you talking about? Like, So
Uh,
I miss some of the signals because we were just in different worlds in that
yeah,
way.
but we had a lot of visitors, boy. It seemed to be always around dinner time.
Well, we luckily somebody told me that if you're a college student and you work 20 hours, and I worked a lot of hours, you could get food stamps. And
Yeah,
before that, we had no money. Nobody visited us before because they had nothing. But then
exactly.
when I learned that you could get food stamps as a college student, I was like, let's go. I was at no shame spending all of those stamps at Safeway. So we started having food.
And I had all the shame, and I grew up on welfare, so I was like, I don't want no part of this. And it was terrible. Like, I've since then, was thankful for that time and when I was a child for having that, because when we were in those apartment, we was eating good once you got those food stamps. So, it was just the mentality, right? It's like feeling that shame over something that I had no control over, right? I didn't have control over when I was a child. I didn't have control over you, right? But I benefited from both situations, right? So it's just learning to appreciate the blessings, like things that are given to you that you have no set, whatever because growing up in LA, which we used to call South Central, they don't call that anymore. I learned a lot of things about myself, right? Because I had this persona, like we talk about the humor, wit, and charm, but it was in the middle when I was going to elementary school through high school. It was crack wars. It was Bloods versus Crips. It was drive-by shootings. It was people getting jacked for the Jordans, for the starter jackets, for all kind of stuff, right? And so, and I didn't find out that this wasn't normal until I got married and had kids. And my wife is like, "What are you talking about? Having our 8-year-old kids catch the bus to school?" Like, to me, that was normal. That's what I started catching the bus to school at 8 years old, the public bus. And it was like, no, that's not normal. That's not a good thing. But I was a latchkey kid, right? I had my key around my neck. I woke up in the morning. I made my breakfast. I got dressed. I went, kept the bus to school, finished school, came home, sat in front of the TV, did my homework. Right? Not a necessarily a good thing, but I feel like it was no problem. And I made my lunch and I was good. I took care of myself, and not that my mom didn't, like, she provided a lot, but she was trying to be able to provide, be able to have what we needed, because the way welfare was then, it wasn't a benefit to get off of welfare, right? It's like
Yeah.
they just cut you off, right? They didn't wean you off, right? So she had
Yeah.
two boys to take care of, and it's kind of funny when I tell the story, because she lost her job at the factory, right? When I started saying, like, well, she lost her job at the factory, it sounds like a movie, but it was the Max Factor factory. And so they shut that factory down. She was a security guard there. And, she had like some college education, right? She was going to go to school for sewing. She really loved sewing, but she had these two boys she had to take care of, and she went on welfare. And then, she was on it. She was for her life, right? While we had her with us. And so that's one of my main themes in life right now is appreciation, right? Being grateful for what I have, and knowing the source of my joy, right? And if you know the source of your joy, then it's you're not pulled away or distracted from the things that are most important, right?
That's it. And those things that when you look back of the journey of the life, you're like, oh, that added to this part of my life. And those things are also things that I'm probably still operating under. Those old recordings, those old patterns, and sometimes some of them serve and some of them are no longer serve. But we have to
Yeah,
find ways of breaking from, and I've had to find ways of breaking from those old habits that are, you know, and I think the food stamps was one of those interesting things because I'm a food addict, right? And I don't think I knew that. I didn't know that at the time. I just know I love to eat and I love to cook and I love to entertain with food, and it gave me more excuse to eat. And I didn't know that I was using it to just numb myself from feelings and stuff. Like, no one talked about feelings. I think our first conversation, I was mentioning that, I was saying that earlier, like when I was at RA that second
mm,
year.
Yeah.
You came to my room doing homework when I think you had already moved off campus, I think the second year.
Yep, I did.
And we had our first like real talk. It took us we've known each other a year and a half, almost 2 years. And that was the first real time that we ever talked about emotions or feelings. And I was like, oh man, like it just happened out of nowhere, but it was a beautiful moment. It's like, oh wow. Like this brother who's always laughing, always smiling. Like I never knew that there was more, because we never got to more. Everything just stayed at the front, right? Everything stayed at the front. And I think is when my mind began to be like, oh yeah, there's more to me too. There's more to me too.
Well, the more I was made fun of, right? The more, in my elementary school, it's black and brown. And, they did not value, it was just a thing in the community, is like not valuing education, right? It's just like we just go to school because we have to. But if you were quote unquote smart, right? And I was tested early. Like we had a gifted magnet program at our school, so it was a bunch of us, and it was one of the rare programs in LA that was in an inner city school, elementary school.
Mm-hmm.
Our librarian, Ms. Winnie Palmer, I'll never forget her name. Her grandson was at the school, Jason Pye, and her daughter was a teacher at the school, his mom, and they started this program, and it was amazing what it did for us, because as an elementary school kid growing up on welfare in poverty, we took trips every year. We raised money and took trips. We had special classrooms, and we did things like learning French and Spanish. Like the stuff I learned at second, third grade, French and Spanish, I still know now. But what I didn't know, what research has told us, is that when you learn languages early in life, it helps you with logic and understanding, right? It helps you develop a part of your brain that allows you to have easier access to critical thinking, right? And so we unlocked those things early. We went to Sacramento, we visited the Capitol, we went to Mexico City, we went to the pyramids, and then our last year before I graduated, we went to the World Expo in Vancouver, Canada. Right. So we went international, right? For these little, urban kids, it was amazing. And, I also mentioned earlier about leaving. My first time I left home was at 14. And I went to Appleton, Wisconsin. I was part of this program called A Better Chance. And it was one of the few public school programs. And so I went there, and Appleton, Wisconsin was 64,000 people. Like the population of the town could fit inside the Coliseum. It's grown since then, but it was just a small, small town. And it was so dramatically different from where I came from. And that was the first night when I was there, that was the first night I had a quiet night of sleep. I'd never been in a place. It always was sirens. If it's not helicopters, it's police, ambulance. It's guns going off. It's people yelling and arguing and fighting with each other. There was always some background noise, and the lights flashing and all the stuff, right? And then it was perfect. It was still silent, quiet, so quiet, and I'm like, I couldn't sleep. you know but that experience of going back and forth between LA and Appleton, Wisconsin, it was my first experience of taking off the mask, right? Because it was late when I came to Cal Poly, and I started realizing, I'm like, I was able to see myself code switch. I was able to see myself put on these personas. And I was like, I want to be one person. Because when I was in LA, I took on a certain walk. I took on a look. We call it in LA, we call it a mug, right? I've had a mug because you had to look tough and hard. I wasn't a gangbanger, but I had to look tough so that gangbangers would think twice about messing with me, right? Like, I had to survive, and those were my survival skills, and I automatically switched into it without even thinking about it. But I started realizing, I'm like, I'm here, I act one way, I'm there and I act one, and it wasn't because I was trying to fit in with the kids in Appleton. It was because I was comfortable to just kind of relax, right? I wasn't looking over my shoulder, and so I could actually just be normal, and I didn't have to be somebody. And so that was my first experience with the mask, and realizing that, hey, I'm switching things up and there was good reason for it, but that's shaped a lot of my experience. And I'll throw one more thing in there is that, with the George Floyd and everything, I've always been kind of a diplomatic person and had these great conversations with people. And people are like, oh, you're so positive. But I had so much anger built up when George Floyd happened. And so I had to apologize to people because I'm in these online battles, like, you don't understand, and calling people, cowards and this and that because they wouldn't stand up or they wouldn't listen, and I realized I'm just like, what are you doing? Like, and like I had this following on Facebook where people, and then like people, it just like dropped. Like people were like, I don't want to deal with that stuff. Like you just getting into crazy. And I had two people I had to block because, I thought they were friends, but they were just coming at me. And I'm just like, I don't need this negativity. But I learned that that's when I realized it really came to me that I didn't go to Wisconsin just for me to have a better opportunity, a better chance. I went there for them to be exposed to me and give them a better opportunity to understand the world around them.
Yeah.
It was a two-way street. And later on in life, as adults, as I'm interacting with these people, I'd say roughly 50-50, right? Half the people were like, had some really weird thinking, even people that I felt like I was close to. And some people were like, yeah, this is not right. We got to make changes. We got to do something about this. And, so that helped me see things in a different way too. And I'm like, okay, you affect change with your presence. Just with your presence, you can affect change. And you give people access, right? We've always talked about access, and that access is a two-way street where we as blacks in America, right, or whatever we want to call it, right, the labels or whatever, but just that experience in America have always been devoid of access to resources, right? But other people have been denied access to cultural things, right? And expanding their thinking and understanding of how other people live. And so if, once people travel the world, they start seeing things, they think differently, right? But when you just live in one place, and I've met people like that they've never left their town. And there's people in LA that live a mile from the beach and have never gone to see the beach. They live in their world. So it's just powerful how that mask can be defined by just our location, our geography, where we're at, right? Where if you never change your geography, you never even see that there's other masks out there.
And I think the same thing for Cal Poly. Some people came there and they were uncomfortable. They went home the first semester, or they went home every weekend. And you're like, what do you mean you're going home every weekend? How do you do
crazy.
That? Like, how do you do? I can afford that? First of all, like, second of all, like you going back and forth 250 miles every weekend just to go hang out with some friends. Like, I mean, man, I don't even want to hang out with my family that much. You go and hang out with friends. Jeez, that's amazing. That's amazing.
I purposely came to Cal Poly because it was far enough away where people wouldn't come visit me. I was like, I don't want to be distracted.
Yeah. I knew my mom no gonna be no drop-ins or no drop-in visits, unexpected, because she's gonna have to make sure I'm there before she drives 4.5 hours. I was clear about that too. So I marked that one up for one of the good reasons. Let's do the back, and I think that I think we've already been into the back, but let's do the back, and then we'll see where it takes us at this. Thank you for sharing that, and first of all, thank you for sharing that story. I maybe I knew it back then, and I had forgotten. I don't think I knew that you went to high school in another state. I don't. Maybe I knew it at some point, but I don't know.
Yeah, you know it then, but it's been 30 years, man.
Yeah, Stop reminding me. Stop reminding me that it's been 30 years. Like.
I give you a pass. I don't remember what I did 2 hours ago. So
right on. Fair enough. Okay. Good stuff.
Yeah, so this is my mask, my little drawn mask. And I just drew the shape that came to me. So the words I have on there is sensitivity, philosophical, and benevolence. And I'll walk through those, right? So I think that's a pretty common thing for men, just with not showing your sensitive side, right? It's just But especially coming from the hood, right? It's like you can't be sensitive. You got to be tough. You got to be strong. And so I've really had to. I think I've always been in touch with it, but being able to just be free to allow that out all the time. But then it became more of a thing where you have to guard your sensitivity, right? You can only show. So now I only show it to people who I feel will receive it well, right? So like I keep that mask not as a protection,
Mm,
but as a privilege, right?
mhm,
There's only certain individuals. All these things on there, it's a privilege for those people to see that side of me, right? But the philosophical thing is that I was a thinker. I've always been a thinker, and I have to throw this in here now, right? So I actually recently got tested. I am ADHD, man. I am ADHD, and I never knew that because of the form of ADHD I am. The part of the on this where I fall on the spectrum. Most people wouldn't consider me ADHD, right? But there's a lot of but it has to do with your executive functioning and foresight and hindsight and just the way you process information, right? So whereas I found out, like, because I had this in my brain, but I was like, because I remembered being tested when I was a kid and seeing that number 120, but then it was confirmed when I did the testing late last year, and I did it with my daughter. We did it together. So I have a 120 IQ, but it's like, okay, you can appreciate this, right? The computer, right? So I have high RAM, but a slow bus speed. Like my
mhm,
processor, and the processor is high, right? So the RAM is good, the processor is good, the bus speed is terrible. Like
mhm,
I can think of all kind of stuff, but getting from the processor chip out to you, it may not come out in a way that you understand it and get it, right? So being able to understand that about myself now and going to therapy for that specifically, along with other things, right? Just even going to therapy, right? That was a thing for I don't know if it was for you, but most likely coming from Oakland, it was. Black people don't go to therapy, right? So but it wasn't that black people don't go to therapy, it's poor people don't go to therapy, right? Because rich
mm,
people go to therapy, right? and and,
mm,
and so it's
mm,
poor people that don't go to therapy. It's a bad understanding, but also it's access, right? The money. Now things have changed where it's part of people's insurance, and so they can go, but that was always something that you had to have the cash for, right? And so we can go dig a lot into that, but so philosophical, right? I'm working on my PhD in industrial and organizational psychology. I have a master's in a master's of arts in educational psychology. I have to clear that up because it's a master's of it is a master's of arts, not a MED, right? So I had to do it. I did a thesis and I did a research and did a thesis, and so now I'm working on my PhD.
excellent.
And yeah, and it's hard. Like I still won't care if people don't call me doctor whenever I finally earn it, but I understand now why people are like, no, call me doctor, because the work you put into that, especially at this age, and I'm turning 50 this year, and it's like this is not easy, right? It's tough, but I'm a student. I embraced, maybe a decade or so ago, the fact that I love to learn. I'm a lifelong student. That's why I introduced myself that way. Is that I was trying to run away from being a nerd, but I'm in touch with my inner nerd and my inner geek, and I love it. And that last one, benevolence. I was trying to think of a word that really encapsulated what I was the message I was trying to get across, right? And it's not that I don't want people to know that I'm kind or seeing me doing things, but it's like I don't announce it, right? Like we as a family give to people and do things for others, but we don't do it for the notoriety. We don't put it on Facebook, and we don't put it on Instagram, right? We don't put it on TikTok. It's just we when we see someone in need, then we provide for that need. when we're able, right? And God has blessed us to be in a position to do that, right? Where we can take care of our bills. And I got my son's in college, and I'm taking care of his household, take care of my household, and then preparing for my daughter to go to college next year, 2 years from now. So it's like, we're thankful that we're in this position to do that. And so we want to, we meaning my wife of 21, almost 22 years, to be able to give, right? And so that's not, I don't wear that on my sleeve, like talking about all the things I donate to and give to and stuff. But it's a very important part of who I am. It's a very important part of my faith and what I believe in. And so, and it's not like, I'm not saying that like, my name should be on some building somewhere or something like that, but it's just little small things, right? Just little small ways that we give and help others and provide information for those that don't have it, right? Like, I'm all excited whenever someone wants to buy a house. I'm so excited. I'm like, what do you need? Like, I want to help you. Like, let me give you all the information. Like, I think that's one of the key things in being in America that you need to do is own a home. You need to purchase a home, right? You got to invest your money, and that's one of the biggest investments that you can make, but it's one of the basic investments, right? That you have to live somewhere, right? That's the argument I give everybody. I'm like, well, I can't afford this, or my credit or whatever, but I'm like, you're going to pay money to live somewhere, so you might as well make it an investment, and not just give it to somebody else.
When you said the word benevolent, I thank you for explaining it, and I think it's one of those things that I remember somebody invited me to be a part of their blog, and they were like, "This is called the," I forgot the name of the blog, but it was like, "Just give me a story about a time when you did something nice for someone," and I'm like, "Huh?" Like, I had a hard time, like, um, okay, well, and it felt like I was bragging, like
Right.
I try and do something nice for people a lot of times, but I don't hold them. I don't hold on to them. I mean, and it took me a long time to like, write up this little review thing, but I was like, I feel awkward. I had to say it in the beginning. I said, I feel awkward thinking of it like this, but this is what I was asked to contribute. But it just felt awkward writing about a time that I did something nice for someone. Cause I felt like I didn't do it for a reason to be writing about it. I did it to do it. I did it because it felt right. I did it because my heart I
Hmm.
felt compelled, right?
Yes.
I used to wear this bracelet I've lost since then. It said, that the church I go to gave out, it said, grace compels me, right? This idea that like I've been given so much, even though I got lots of my life I can talk, painful stories about, but still, even amongst that, I was given so much, and I get opportunity to give back, and through this work, through the organization, through Ever Forward, like it's my opportunity to hopefully provide what I didn't have. I didn't have a mentor growing up, like not in the traditional sense. They were found them. Some were positive, and some were you probably should not have been listening to them. But I think I'll try to create what I wish I had, as a structure, and I think that's something that's very important for me. So thank you for sharing that. I'll share the three that I wrote. I wrote grief, worry, and mean friend.
Mm.
And I think we'll talk more about mean friend today, but I wrote about grief. My cousin, I went to his funeral on Saturday, and it was tough. It was tough to go, and the it was tough, and I couldn't go to the repast. It was just too much. Too much was still happening in me. Like I just couldn't. I couldn't do it. I couldn't do it. I really wanted to, but I couldn't. Grief, worry. I think worry is just about all this hard work that I'm putting into this organization, really wanting it to be massively successful, knowing that I've helped lots of young people in the journey of the work, but I feel like I'm nowhere near where I dreamed we would be by 20 years in. This is 20 years of Ever Forward. I've been doing this for 20 years, only the last 7 as an employee. Before I was a volunteer, but it's been, it's the worry of like, of a legacy, right? It's a worry of like, leaving a mark, right? Like, you have kids, I don't have kids. So it kind of feels sometimes like, what happens if it doesn't work? What happens if it fails? I feel a lot of sometimes grief about about that. Grief of giving up my
Yeah.
engineering career. Sometimes I don't always feel it, but sometimes it comes, right? Like I gave it up for this calling on my heart,
Hmm.
which I knew wasn't going to let me live the life that I dreamed of living. I didn't work hard at Cal Poly as hard as I worked to then go and be barely making it every month. Like I did not do that. I worked hard because I wanted to be rich. You know what I'm saying? Like, and when I decided to pull back and follow my heart, the the heart, it paid in some ways. It didn't pay financially. You know what I'm saying?
Right. Yes.
It didn't
Yeah.
pay financially, but and then I put mean friend because I've been really processing this idea recently about how to be your own best friend. You know, like what does that mean? A lot of young men we were working with in middle school, they're so mean to each other, and and even in our own little brotherhood circle, it comes out, and I'm like, why are you talking to each other like that? We don't like how many weeks we've been together? 20 weeks. So why are we still having to tell
Hmm.
you that we don't talk to each other like that in this space? And it's like this. And what we did last week, we did an activity with a group of young men, and I asked a boy, I asked them all, write a letter to yourself. And I want you to write what you say to yourself. Like, what are the words you say to yourself inside, you know? And someone like, I don't talk to myself. I'm like, of course you do. We all do. We all say words to ourselves inside of our mind that we don't say outside. What words are you saying to yourself? And it took them a while to be meta cognitive about how they think about their thinking, right? They were thinking, because all of them want to be like, I'm not crazy. You trying to call me crazy? I'm like, no, I'm calling you anything. I'm telling you, you're human. And, that's what they do, right? Middle schoolers, right? So, um, and one boy who has been having a meltdown lately, like he wants to fight with me. He wants to do these little eye of the tiger stare downs with me, and I'm like, dude, I'm not your enemy. Why are you trying to stare me down? And I'm gonna win. But first of all, why are you doing it to me, right? You know what I'm saying? Like, I have too much of a immature little 12-year-old inside of me to let you win, thinking you're gonna stare me down. So my 12-year-old is gonna show up. You know what I'm saying? So, but when I read his letter, oh, it was so much like, you're so stupid, you dumbass. Like you, I mean, what he says to himself is words I've heard him say out loud to others. It's what I am like, oh, that's what's going on. Like, if you're saying those words to yourself on a regular basis, it means nothing to say them to somebody else. And I realized that he is what I am to myself, because I don't talk to anybody in my life the way I talk to myself. The things I say about me, I I wouldn't have anybody in my life to talk to me that way, and I don't even talk to anybody that way. And I realized, oh wow, that's me too. I say so many mean things about myself, and I realized we have to practice that. We have to practice changing those beliefs, behaviors, patterns. And so that's why I wrote Mean Friend, that I'm working on being. I don't want to be my meanest friend, but I most times am. And so working on that.
Mm, it's powerful, man. As I'm sure you know, self-esteem is only part of our self-image, right? It's a piece of the self-image,
Mm,
and that's when I was, in my studies in my master's program, right? We were looking at that, like, and what I realized about children, like, the number one thing a parent needs to do for their child is teach them how to have a positive self-image,
mm,
and that's what the schools should be teaching. Right. And I'm so thankful that you're teaching that. And to the grief, man, I felt that same grief about the engineering, letting it go, right? Not going down that path, seeing our friends that did, and like, oh, they're making this money and they're doing that. But, the enrichment that I've received from the things that I've done, I wouldn't trade it, and I just have to say, I've been extremely impressed by your accomplishments and your travels. I mean, you've been to Africa and you've been around the world, and you're preaching this message, and this message of self love and true self identity, which is amazing. And you don't have zero children; you have hundreds of children.
mm,
Man, I mean, you mean more to some of these young people than anybody else that they grew up with in blood, right? You have invested something in them and given them an opportunity to experience life in a way that no one ever has, and you've opened doors for them that no one has. And that right there, I mean, it's yeah, you can be born to someone, but for someone to sow a seed into you, like you've sown
Mm.
so many seeds into so many lives that are blossoming, man. That's true parenting. You're the parent to a lot of children. So, um, you're like Father Abraham, right? It's just, seriously, like, because you're birthing in them new life, right?
Mm.
And that's something that I really appreciate you for. Like, the work you're doing is amazing. I am such awe of you, and I have to say that it's just I'm compelled. Um, I dreamed up of a program. You've run a program, right? Like, I've done tutoring and helping and all that stuff, but you've and mentoring in different ways, and but you've you've stuck with it and did it consistently. You've consistently been there running this amazing program that has produced so many amazing individuals that you have so many success stories from. And then, I encourage you to continue with your corporate business, like going out to these corporations, that you can build that business. You can build up the nonprofit with that business of going to these corporations and helping them take off the mask. It's an ingenious way of helping people to understand bias, because there's no one that can say, I don't relate to what you're talking about, because they're an absolute lie. Every human being can relate to the mask, because everyone puts on a mask every single day. That's how you survive in corporate world. You go to a job, you put on a mask to work that job. And so it's just powerful what you do. I just, you know,
Thank you, brother. Thank you. I appreciate that.
yeah.
I appreciate that. Thank you. I remember when you were saying that, I'm just appreciating it, trying to like learn how to take it in. And I remember when I called you when we were on a Southern California college tour. I want to say it was 2007 or 8. You were in
Mhm.
LA still, and I remember we were going to be at Santa Monica Pier, yeah. And you said, okay, I'm gonna take a lunch break. I'm gonna come down. I'm gonna meet you all. And you came out and you spoke to the students. And I'll never forget it. We were just sitting right there above the. You can see the water out there, but we were on the grass here, right by the promenade. And I was so appreciating you. I hadn't seen you after that. At that point, I hadn't seen you in so many years. It was good to see you face to face, and all these little touch points over the 30-year journey of our friendship. Even though we haven't over the last, after the college years, we didn't see each other as much, but just so glad to be able to catch up quickly when we do. So thank you. Thank you for those
You're
words.
welcome. And I believe the point of that message was get information, right? Because they were going to college, and I'm saying, you going to college, you need to get some information. You need to ask some questions.
That's right. That's exactly right. Because we were visiting colleges, you had a message for us. You had a word. I think back then, because it was 2007, I have photos from a Canon Elf, so they're not so high quality photos, but I got them and I'm gonna send them to you. But they were
Yeah,
there was no
I found,
iPhones back then.
man, I found a letter from you, man. You sent me a letter, and you had these pictures, man, and you had wrote this heartfelt letter, and you just had all these pictures, because you were always taking pictures, man. Like, I don't know, like, you know, you just love the camera. So I think you even got that expensive camera too. You was always resourceful. You probably got somebody to buy it for you. But uh but man, yeah, like, yeah, it's just good to have people in your life. Like, I have some couple friends from elementary school. I have people I still talk to that I grew up with from elementary, some from middle school, some from high school, but more, some from college. And just throughout life, I've made friends in business, and we still keep in touch. And it's just important to have like-minded people that, you don't see them every day, but when you do connect with them, it's magical, it's meaningful, right? Like, you take something away from it, right? They remind you of who you are, and they remind you of your dreams, right? Like, it's like, oh yeah, I did say I was going to do that, or yeah, we were talking about this. And we just need that. We need that we need those individuals that are going to spark something in us, and it's so important.
Kevin Cho was on the episode a few weeks ago. He said the difference between a cactus friend and a bonsai friend, right? a cactus friend.
Love it.
You can go months, years without seeing them. You come back and it's just like it was yesterday. And you got some friends that after 2 days they're like, "You don't like me no more," and you're like, "Huh? My phone was broke, whatever it may be, right?" And so I'm so glad to have you as in that metaphor of a cactus friend that, just knowing that we're going to pick back up when it's the right time and that it's only a phone call away, So thank you, brother. Is there any last thing you want to say? I appreciate you for being on the show. And I think we hit a good moment we're going to be back in touch again in our lives, but just as far as the show is concerned, is there anything last thing you want to say as we close out or anything?
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of things I could say. We could probably do a whole nother podcast.
Let's do it. Let's plan it.
But this is one of my recent revelations, right, within the last couple of months where, I was just really down and out over, some things. And I had the revelation. I'm like, okay, people are just living their life and they are doing things. And you happen to be in their sphere. And so those things that they're doing are affecting you, but they're not necessarily doing things to you. I think majority of the time when we get upset because something happened and we feel like this person did this to me, or this person did that to me, they're not doing it to you. They're doing it. They're living their life and they're trying to live life the best way they can. And the decisions they made affected you in a negative way. If you can take yourself out of the center of your world, right? Because I had to I was like, I can't be at the center of my world because then I have a skewed view, right? But what I put in the center of my world is my life source, right? For me, that's Christ, right? It's like if Christ is at the center of my world, right? Then and I'm just a role player in taking a part in the play. Then what do I need to do to be the best role player? Because all this stuff that's happening it's not happening to me. It's happening as I'm living life and these other people are living life. And you kind of, when you can really absorb that and really think about it, and just take it in, it's like, oh wow. Like, yeah, I've been going out this the wrong way. So if Christ is at the center of the world, then okay, then what do I need to do to support the main character?
Yeah, thank you, brother. Yeah, thank you, and I think that is something I've been really feeling called to do. I think I've been called for a lot of years to work in the youth ministry at the church I go to, and I think I have. I wasn't holding back. I think I was waiting to be invited. Right, I was waiting. Somebody's going to invite me to this. They know this is the work I do. This is the work I'm passionate about. At some point, they're going to invite me, and I think I just kept waiting, and like I'll make a little hint, and I'm like, okay, they heard the hint, and then I'll back away, and I realize that's right. I'm waiting for this gift to be put to use as opposed to putting the gift to use. And they say if you don't use it, you can lose it, right? And I know that he's given me this gift, and I think our youth are falling further away from belief in any kind of higher power, definitely in the church. And I think churches have always has done not a good job about engaging them, but I think we have work to do. And so I have been called to continue using my talent and my gift that I think I've been given for adding value to the kingdom in that way. And it takes work, it's work on top of work, but it's not work it's the work I get to just serve, right? I'm here to serve, and I'm excited about that. So thank you for naming that the center, and I appreciate that.
Hey, if you're looking for, I'll give you what you was asking for. As a former assistant pastor of a church and as a former youth pastor, you will do a great job. Blessings. You go forth. You've already been doing the work, so just go forth.
I was taking your hands right here. I was like, give me.
Man, I done carted kids all over the planet, people's kids, and we done had all kind of sessions and talks and, trying to teach them the Bible and try to make things fun and interesting. Yeah, like just do it.
Thank you, brother.
Yeah.
Man, Charles, it has been such a pleasure to be in this conversation with you in this format. We've had many conversations over the last 30 years, and hopefully there's even more in the near future. Thank you for being on the show today.
Thank you for having me. It was a blessing.
Folks, Charles and I shared our masks here publicly. You don't have to share yours publicly. You can share yours anonymously at millionmask.org. Thank you for listening. We'll see you soon. See you next week. Bye, folks. The Taking Off the Mask podcast is produced by Ryan Louie and graphics by Kelly Wong. Guests are managed by Dan Paloma, and the podcast is edited by Samuel Matingo. We'd like to thank everyone who's been a part of the creation of this podcast, and for every guest that has been a part of the show, you are now a part of the Taking Off the Mask family. The Taking Off the Mask podcast is brought to you by the Ever Forward Club, and if you like what you've heard today, please subscribe, write a 5-star review, and share this with someone. We look forward to having more conversations that matter. And please remember, there's more to you than anybody can see by just looking at you.